So as of today, the 30th of January 2026, the banks are planning for the education sector. Chikubu and the business community have stocked up for the education sector. What people are not addressing today is the child and the parent and the ministry that are delivering on the other side, receiving the news that's going to be coming out of the release of the Uganda primary leaving examinations that were conducted in 2025. There were quite a number of irregularities in there, but we'll be addressing all the nitty-gritty in our Kickstarter this morning as we look to the 2026 education sector outlook, strengthening quality of education. And as of this year, sub-Saharan Africa still accounts for nearly 30% of the world's out-of-school children, with roughly 98 million to 100 million children and youth aged between 6 and 18 years of age currently excluded from formal learning. So you can't find them in education, you can't find them in tertiary, neither can you even trust them in employment sometimes. So while primary school enrollment has seen a steady rise over the past decade, you get to see that learning crises remain the biggest hurdle for the state of education in Africa, making the story of Uganda's education no longer just about getting children into classrooms. So as the PLE results are being released today, we delve into the outlook of Uganda's education sector and how we're walking into this journey. How do we pick up the pieces? And by picking up the pieces, I mean, you know, the disruption that we've just had in January with the elections that are being concluded next week, that has also reshaped some of the things at the helm of education. Joining me on this panel from my extreme left, I do have Dr. Lawrence Muganga, Vice Chancellor, Victoria University. Doctor, Happy New Year and good morning.
Happy New Year to your viewers and yourself, to colleagues here. It's a pleasure being here this morning.
Okay. Next to him, we do have Farida Nasirika, Senior Program Officer with Uwezo Uganda. You're most welcome, Farida.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
I'm glad that I think in a long time we are having a lady sit on an education panel for us here. So on our side, it's a
gender mainstreaming is working.
It's working.
Actually, we need protection now.
It's extremely key and crucial.
And Mr. Mudi is also joining us, Kangave teacher and a trainer and also representative. It's a pleasure to have you once again. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good morning. I know. Good morning, Madam. Mic check 1, 2.
1, 2, check. Okay, that being said, allow me to put you to the task and let us know what have been the opportunities that we have realized in the last 365 days looking to the education sector in the country. Let me start with you, Mr. Mudi.
Thank you very much, Madam Priscilla. Good morning, dear viewers. Yeah, the year 2025 in the education sector has been a very good year. The number of achievements, a number of challenges, and so many other things. For example, it's the year when we had the strike. Teachers in government schools had a strike. It's like they did not teach for some good time when students were going for exams. So it was a bit embarrassing and it wasn't so good. In the same year, I work in the private sector. We had the dialogue between the proprietors, the teachers, and the Ministry of Education. It was a success. It was called the annual dialogue between the proprietors, and it was a success in the year 2025. But most importantly, it is the year we've received so many guidelines to the education sector. When you look at, we had guidelines on properties, we had guidelines on VDs, we had guidelines actually on the release of PLE. As this PLE is coming out today, it's pertinent for people to know that when they were releasing PLE 2025, the ministry issued an order that...
When they were releasing 2024?
Sorry, 2024 yeah. PLE in 2025, the beginning of 2025, that the media, the schools should not publish the results of the individuals So it means that after today's release, we are going to see a different perspective. We shall not see the children's names being lined up. We shall not see them on the notice boards. And that was completely banned. So I can say 2025 was a good year, though the number of challenges probably has
We'll
maybe
talk about the
we shall
challenges
discuss.
later, but you talked about the teachers' strike as an a positive thing, a good thing. Why was that a good thing?
No, not a positive thing, but I was looking at the events that were happening in the year 2025.
All right.
And it's something you cannot live without talking about, because most students, senior 4, primary 7, SAT exams, actually when they had spent a full month without teachers. So as we are waiting for the results, what do you think?
That will be put into consideration as to how the performances come out, the performance outlook. Farida, what is your take out of 2025's education sector?
I will look at it mostly as an increase, where you see an increase in government's commitment to see that there's holistic learning for our children. You're seeing a year where there was a bit of more effort, more commitment to the competency-based curriculum rollout. We saw that in that year, the children who had been the first cohort that went through the competency-based curriculum, the new O-level curriculum, actually transitioned to A-level. And again, you see that government made efforts to see that even as they transitioned, they're also making the A-level system a bit more competency-based. So I see it as a year where government is heeding or listened to the calls for a more competency-based curriculum, for a situation where our children are actually not just schooling, but also benefiting from holistic learning, which I would think is a positive gain in that, in a way. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Doctor, in your assessment, please also help us assess the government program of UPE and USE.
There is so much that has happened, like Farida said. The government is, let's begin with the really positives, right? Government is will to slightly increase the budget for the education sector. It's better than the other. If you look at 2024, 2025 financial year would have been better than other years. So, but also the further investment and cementing of the CBE, the competence-based education model of learning, because that is, it may look the way it looks right now. It's teachers are not trained to really share it in its entirety as it is supposed to be, but it is the best thing the education sector has ever given to Ugandans, if we can get it right. So that going forward, it's a very, very good thing. Then the other thing also, we see that in 2025, it's when we see the Mushega Commission making these so many pronouncements of what the education system of Uganda should look like. So we hope that a white paper can really come out of that. And most of these things, Kangabe has just talked about so many guidelines that are emerged in the process. And some of them were actually beginning to mirror what the Education Policy Review Commission was talking about at the time. So we hope that this can actually result into a white paper that can be now made into law, and we see the fruits of that commission. But it happened in 2025. Then I also saw, I stand to be corrected if I'm overreaching, but the arts teachers, arts teachers, at least they were heard somehow. They met the Fountain of Honor that time, and they were given some promises. I don't know if they have come to pass, but at least there was goodwill there. I think I heard that there will be a phased increment of their salaries, and they were guaranteed somewhere between 20 to 25% compared to their counterparts, the science teachers, right? So that's a good thing as well. Then talk about the science teachers. They are doing well. In 2025, people bought land, built houses. You just needed to be a science teacher, and you know you have some very good financial literacy, and you know how to manage the resources you received in 2025. So it was good for the science teachers. It needs to be better now for the arts teachers as well.
Well, that commitment was to the financial at which the budget framework paper is being. So hopefully it will reflect in 2025. 2026, 2026, 2027. That's the financial in which that realization of that commitment ought to come through. That being said, now that is on government level, that is on the side of the stakeholders. Now we have the other side of the stakeholders, the investors in the education sector, the proprietors in the education, the ones who have gone a long way in bridging the gap of education and on behalf of government. Assessment of how they have actually also made either a contribution to the continued growth and development that we see in the sector. Mr. Moody.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, the proprietors have done a lot. First of all, I want to appreciate them and actually welcome them from this election period. However, there are a number of things we must put into account. One, we must study the economy, the situation within our country's economy today. When you look at the environment we are living in, most people are crying because we are hit hard. You find that by the year 2025, almost no school realized 100% school fees collection. And as you know, these private schools depend on the school fees. So putting that, it means that even today, a parent who left by the end of the year that was being demanded some good money will resort to going to another school as a reason, not because the school is bad, not because they are not teaching, but because is having a debt.
Okay.
So it will lead to a decrease in some schools.
So I'm going to ask you to hold your school of thought there and bring in Farida here. As we're having the release of PLE results today by the ministry, we want to have, just building expectation around it. There's been decline in performance in schools in Kampala and Wakiso, yet they used to be grand performing schools. We've also seen special needs learners challenges with the integration recommendation by government that now we shouldn't have special needs entities or education centers. We can have the two, quote unquote, the ones that are no more in development and those that are challenged in development can study together. In assessment of those elements, as we are getting the results released today, where do we stand as a country?
When you look at the issues related to special needs education, there are quite a number of challenges that I would think we need to tackle as government. We are part of government. The system, the education system is actually a whole embedded system where you want to see everyone benefiting, issues of equity. Learners with special needs are unique in their own way because they will require special learning materials, they require special attention. So in a way that when you look at the system, is it actually working for them? Is it creating a conducive environment for them to learn and thrive just like the other children? So in as much as we are looking at the data that has been coming through, especially from a number of researchers, but also from the PLE results of past years, 2025 and previous years, you're seeing that learners with special needs are actually still requiring a lot of attention. Are these exams facilitating their abilities to demonstrate what they've acquired or achieved within the 7 years? is this exam one that is tailored for their special needs? You would see a child who has visual impairment. You see another child who has dyslexia or autism, but they're all using the same exam. Is the time that is allocated, extra time for them, actually equal for all of them, or enabling all of them to actually bring out their potential? So issues around special needs require specific attention to ensure that these children, in as much as the system is enabling inclusive education, there is still a lot that needs to be done to ensure that we are all at a level power.
And what is that a lot that needs to be done?
For example, tailor this PLE examination to a child who has dyslexia in a context that the one who's also taking the same exam, who is visually impaired or with a hearing impairment, is actually not at the same level of footing as that one. So you tailor make these assessments for each of those children so that we have equity at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is that practical on ground in consideration of the recommendations and the measures by the government to see that they're looking at integration of these children in their formative years or their development years, so that it's easier as they're climbing up the ladder, not to feel like they're
Exactly.
special and stigmatized.
Don't wait to catch it at the end. Start right from the foundations.
Okay.
So as the schooling happens, as these children come into the system, the enrollment system, make sure there's a platform for them to be at the same footing as the others. Invest in materials, classroom materials. Invest in teachers, actually, with the capacity to train or to teach these children.
Okay.
So that at the end of the day, this child for the 7 years is able to go through a system that is supporting them learn. But not only at the end where you're seeing it coming through and you're giving them extra time, but during their normal exam time, the school exams, the formative assessments that happen, there's actually not a lot of effort made towards that. Right from the time the children are being taught, let's see that there's all efforts.
Okay, all right. And what's your comment on Kampala and Wakiso's continued decline in performance on national examinations?
The issues around urbanization are also still challenging. But again, you see that a number of economic factors come in as well, where you're seeing affordability, and Mr. Kangabe also talked about it. Issues around affordability are actually very crucial in that they will affect attendance. A child who will be just out of school will not be able to regularly attend, and in that they will end up missing on certain lessons which affect the way they will, at the end of the day, perform on an exam. We are seeing many of the private schools actually urbanized. And when you look at the rural schools, that's where you're seeing a lot of concentration of the UPE schools. But again, even in the urban schools where you're seeing UPE schools, there's a lot of issues related to huge class sizes. The teachers are overwhelmed. Look at a school like Nakasero Primary School where I went. Then we were fewer in class, but now you have hundreds of children in class facilitated by one teacher. So there are around a number of issues that actually affect learning in an urban setting compared to also the rural. And again, when we look at the competency-based approaches to learning, they are more practical, they are more applicable. Are we having that for an urban child who is in a class that has so many children? Again, even in the rural areas, there are also so many children in a class. The pupil-teacher ratio is quite high, but children possibly in the rural areas are exposed to opportunities where they can apply the knowledge they are learning. But in a school like Nakasero, you do not have a garden where, for example, if a science lesson is being taught about photosynthesis or things that you can relate with in science and understand the concepts better, you do not actually have a lot of that exposure.
Okay.
So a number of contributing
All right. Gentlemen, allow me to just focus on Farida because we have to let her go, but would love to have her inputs on some of the, the key talking points. You'll chip in a little bit later. I would like you, Farida, to also speak into the increasing school dropout rate. It's
becoming a general issue.
600 children are lost between P1 and P7. What is the continued account of this dropout?
A number of factors as well. Cost. Cost is one of the leading contributors. But even when cost is there, you look at situations where government has facilitated a process where there is universal primary education. There will be a small contribution by the parents to uniform, to school feeding, and we know how crucial school feeding is. If a child is not fed, they are going to go hungry, they cannot concentrate in class, they'll not take in what the teacher is teaching. So at the end of the day, this little cost, even if it is little, and it's perceived to be little, affects a great deal. So a parent who cannot afford a meal at school, and we are happy that government, through the policy review commission proposals, is trying to take on, or will even take on, I hope in the budget for the next year, issues around school feeding and the importance of school feeding. It keeps children in school. We've seen successes in Karamoja. So issues around cost are a strong contributor to dropouts. Again, when you look at cost and the fact that where a child has not been able to access pre-primary education, and that is also a cost issue. The child will go into school when they are above age, and they're not well prepared to start learning the foundations, the basics, basic literacy, basic numeracy. They're going into a school where the level is not even for all of them. Some have actually attended preschool, others have not attended preschool. And a lot of the data that we produce as WESO brings out that. Okay. That if a child has not attended pre-primary, they're going to go into a situation where they are looking at things that seem a little bit abstract, but they've not been well prepared for learning.
All right. So as we going to miss you for the rest of the discussion, at the end of the day, what is your one recommendation to stakeholders?
The recommendation is that let's look at education provision as one that should be equitable, as one that should enable these learners thrive. With the PLE that is going to come out, this data should not just be looked at as data. It should be looked at as an opportunity for us to reflect on what are the things that are still challenging. What do we still need to do to ensure that these children, in as much as they're in the education system, the intention is for them to learn, but are they actually learning? Are they getting the benefit of being able to thrive in a world that is very competitive? Are we seeing holistic learning happening? And not just a focus on exams, but are we seeing children who are competent enough to be able to solve problems, to thrive, to deal with so many challenges, global challenges, locally contextualized challenges? Are they able to deal with issues that require manipulation for them to survive? So we should look at it as a thing that is for all of us, not only government. We are part of government, the system, the teachers, the community. Everyone should really be coming together to see that.
All right, thank you so much for your voice, Farida Nasereka, Senior Program Officer, WESO Uganda, for your submissions to the table. We'll take a short breather, return shortly. Uganda's Education Outlook 2026 is where we are at in our Kickstarter discussion this morning, and looking to the strengthening of quality education in the country. But I do believe if I gave this to Dr. Muganga, he would say, but strengthen, where is the quality, first of all, to begin with? Dr. Lawrence Muganga still with us, as well as Mr. Kangave Mudi. And gentlemen, you know, the points that we were having with Farida earlier, she had to leave us. But I also want to hear your voices on these very same things. We did have last year seeing a decline in performance of Kampala, performance of Wakiso. Ideally, these are districts that have the creme de la creme in terms of education, and we're talking about the people who invest in them are educators, and they're also, you know, part of the policy making system. And so seeing that there's a decline in these particular hotspots, it's definitely causing us to wonder what will come of today's results release. But it's a worrying factor for the education across the country if the heart of you know, everything is a little bit, if they're not performing well, then who is performing well? Let me start with Dr. Lawrence.
But personally, I'll tell you one thing. I would not really worry about what people call bad performance. So we need to ask ourselves, like, what were we measuring in the first place? So, and we know save for a few years where we are beginning to say that competence-based curriculum is setting kind of like setting in right now. We've been really measuring recall, remembering, all right? So now we are seeing a few changes in assessment where 20% of that exam, if you're talking about O-level, for example, if you're talking about the way you, even primary right now, the way you're assessing kids or students is changing. So it's beginning not to be so much of recalling and remembering and cramming. So now the ground is getting to be leveled a little bit. So what we were used to, where people were really swallowing everything the teacher told them to cram and replicating it on paper, it's beginning to disappear. So these are the realities now we're looking at. But that should not be a problem with the new curriculum if it is really, really implemented as the model is. Mm-hmm. So we are looking at now young people who are able to deploy their hands, their heart, and their head, meaning kind of like wholesome learning. They can do something, okay? The brain is not about what now it knows or what it can recall, but what can you do with what you know? So meaning, you may get the grades that you see, they look like, say, 60%, but this person can actually become a problem solver. So that's the meaningful education. Can you solve something? Okay. Don't show me something on paper. Yeah. Do something.
Mr. Mudi, Kampala Wakiso, Farida said urbanization, the teacher-student ratio is one of those contributing factors. What do you have to make of the case of performance in Kampala and Wakiso?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, last year there was a decline in Kampala, Wakiso, Mukono, that's Kampala Metropolitan. The reason, like Dr. put it, we have competence-based assessment. In the competence-based curriculum or the competence-based teaching, emphasizes like 5 key areas: critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, problem solving, and daily life experience. So when you look at the exams we've been writing formally before last year's exams, there were exams that call for cram work. So teachers would go for question and answer all the time. You get this, the answer is this. You get this, the answer is that. By last year, things were different. Actually, even the PLE of 2025 was like the PLE of 2024. For example, actually I was sharing with the doctor sometime before, like when you go to the science paper, these children sat, they drew a diagram showing charcoal burning, and they said this is grass, this is wet something, this is, and a child in town has not seen anyone burning charcoal.
Correct.
Can I confess something on that note? I first saw charcoal burning in December
This year.
when I went to a village, and I was very confused. I saw the heap, but it was well covered, and I was being told they're burning charcoal in there.
Now, just sit
It was
into that
very
exam now.
fascinating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a child in that village knows how they cut those trees, how they put them there, how they make that kind of killing.
The lived experience.
It means that when you ask, what is the
And
importance
the reverse
of,
is true for the rural
Yes,
students,
exactly.
you know, not
in
having
some areas.
Yeah.
In social studies, we got a question that was saying activities done at the child naming ceremony.
We no longer have child naming ceremonies.
But in the villages, those people, I think, they do.
Yeah.
Culturally.
Yeah.
So it means a child who has been in the village can just recall what was taking place at the uncle's place. Maybe they said, okay, maybe this one did this, maybe. But the one in town will see this one as, so that's the first thing.
Doctor, how
Yeah.
do you
The perspective has changed.
integrate what Mr. Moody is saying here with also the special needs angle?
So let me, of course, that is, there is some, if you look at, you categorize every group or, within the learners, general community, you'll find that our learning as was, is not as inclusive as we want it to be. But there is one thing that gives us hope, which is, again, I come back to CBE, competence-based education, if it is well implemented. Why? We focus on one thing. We focus on personalizing learning. Priscilla, you are very different. I am different. Mr. Kangavi is different. Okay? Number one. Number two, we focus on mastery of particular competencies. So that means time is no longer very, very much relevant. What is a constant in this kind of conversation is competencies. Okay? Time can vary now. Previously, without CBE, and if it is not even still implemented better, we saw time was fixed, constant. You have to finish at this point in time. If you don't finish, you have failed. So that means if a child has a disability, you want them to do an exam, the same one other child who is advantaged differently is also doing that very exam. So competence-based will allow them to learn at their pace, master the competences they are supposed to master, and then move forward. So that's inclusive. And then even those who are gifted kids or abled differently are able to even spend less time to master a particular competence and then move forward. That's where we have hope, if it can really be implemented. But if you really asked me to tell you the truth, anyone who is a parent today and is viewing NTV this morning, I'll tell you that what we are worrying about is not even what is very relevant. I'm telling you. The exams that you are waiting for anxiously that are going to be released in other countries, it doesn't happen. How can we even be the Wagandas ones who are saying...
Dr. Lawrence, I know you want to paint us a picture of other countries, but let us stay within Uganda.
I want to stay
let me
here.
tell you, Doctor, why. The parent you are referring to is looking at this result as the one to decide where their child will go.
Okay, let me tell you...
The schools you are talking about are here in Uganda trying to see which grades are they going, of students are they going to be taking in.
Yes, but here is the thing, you cannot be all the time, and this is where we have to come in and help fellow parents and to tell them the truth, okay, that this exam, you look at me here, and everyone seated here, I've written exams, my goodness. Okay, I've had degrees, I can count 5, okay, but I know the importance of the exam. All right, so when you cannot start sitting in one area and you define yourself as knowing everything when you don't know actually what is happening elsewhere. And you know why I'm telling you that it is important for us to also think about elsewhere. this exam, it is not results coming out, and it's not news, right? It's supposed to be normal for everyone to do an exam, assessment, and everything. But here we are excited about a national exam for a 13-year, a 12-year-old. And then we are even worried that my child will fail. Who declares a child at 13 as a failure? It cannot happen. We know we are still growing. Now let me tell you what we are supposed to worry about, okay? Not what we are worrying about right now. So, the parents who have kids, let me break, if you give me like a few minutes, let me break down the population we are living in today. And now the kids we are talking about. If you look at people who existed in 1965 to 1980, okay? Those who would say they were called the Generation X people. Now those people, they didn't know anything about internet. They even, in 1998, there was a debate of defining what internet is all about. So they didn't know anything. And you'll find that also our leadership, managing the state, were also fall in that category, right? So for them, the world view is totally different. Now you come to the millennials of today, okay? Not today, we have the millennials. So if you look at them, they are the digital native. Priscilla and those who are watching. Now, fast track that. For the millennials, they have experienced internet. That's their regime. Now, if you look at what we would call the Gen Alphas, these are the kids now we are talking about, 0 to 14 years. These kids will never know anything else other than being an artificial intelligence generation.
That's true.
Now, what are we doing to make them prepared for the generation they must live? So now, it goes back to the other one. If we don't take care of them now, we are creating a generation that is very unproductive.
Okay, so they're being exposed to the future, but being assessed by the past.
Thank you very much. They are marching to the future physically, being prepared for the past and assessed for the past, but they are marching to the future.
And that is where
that is what we should worry about.
Mr. Moody, as we close this conversation, the element of the special interest needs children and also the element of school dropouts is something that I'd like you to voice onto.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sincerely, we have so many children with different special needs. Visual impairment, hearing impairment, autism, so many. But one, it depends on the school where this child goes. Why? We have some schools that purely cater for those special needs. When you come to the UNEB level, at least I've participated in UNEB activities at different levels, be it the scouting and all of that. When you come to these, at the registration level, they put that window. Do you have any special child in your school? So that if this child is having a visual impairment, a special exam is prepared. If this child is having a hearing impairment, they send a special person to come and handle this child. Even at the marking, you find a special place put in place to mark those children with special needs. So at least that one at UNEB, it tries to cater for that. But most importantly, what I want to echo what the doctor said. One, these exams are coming today. The results will either meet people's expectations or not. Some children will be blamed, some will be praised. But my information and probably my advice to the parents, to the teachers, to each and every one, receive the results the way they are.
And don't attach so much value on those results because they will not define the future of your child. No.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, gentlemen, that's the best way we can close this conversation. Just letting the parent know, letting stakeholders know that it's not about the grades at all. It is about your child and the quality of education that they are receiving in order to become who they're intended to be holistically. And that brings us to the end of this conversation. Gentlemen, asante sana. We're going to be linking to my colleague in Luero, that is Herbert Kamoga, who's joining us this morning, and he's having a sit down with the mayor-elect in Luero. Kamoga, good morning.